You can set them to auto, and I'm pretty comfortable with them, by the way, with WordPress updates. Right.
Especially I think we have what, 4 or 5 on there.
Right. And I believe they're all WordPress approved, meaning WordPress screens them before their release can go out. All right, Don has a problem we're going to take care of real quick. Let's see what's going on. I think he got hacked. So let's go check that out. Don, what's your domain name?
Donald Allen Jr.
Donald Duck.
Yeah. And first rate people just get that for that one.
So I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in as reseller. Which site is it?
The IOP 5XX.
Go to his file manager.
Halfway down.
What I'm looking for is that. See that? RC. We're going to go ahead and look at it through the. Can I use the editor in here? Oh, no, it's part of the EOLA. See, I'm limited to what I can do. I can delete your file, but I can't look at it. That's what the laws say, right? Don, I'm going to delete that. Actually, what I'm going to do is this, because I want to share with the class. Bad. So, right, the sun shines on a dog's ass once in a while kind of thing. That's why hackers continue to be hackers, because the sun shines on their ass. Right? What can I say? Let's refresh. Where did it go? Anybody see it? I don't see it. I compressed it.
4 down.
4 down.
4 down from where you're highlighted.
Oh. Bad. Oh, yeah. Dumbass. I forgot I called it bad. So I'm looking for R at. Yeah. What can I say?
Sure, my memory hard. Go back.
So I'm going to extract it. The reason I'm okay, I feel okay, is that without a processor, PHP cannot process. But what I am going to do is make sure that I only open it in Notepad and not one of my IDEs or whatever that might be hooked up to another server or make sense. So I'm going to use Notepad++. I don't use that to interact with my servers at all. Look at that. Holy crap. That's quite a healthy. So what it's doing, essentially, you see all those database names up there and connections and stuff. It's basically implanted itself on your site and is randomly just trying to figure out your database access credentials. Once it successfully gets that, it'll go through and just start looping through and extracting your data, possibly killing your data, possibly, you know what I mean? Like all kinds of things. Also, I believe that these are files that it's going to generate as well. So bad. Yeah, right. Let's get rid of that crap. Delete. Now watch what I do, please. So I delete here. I don't want that anywhere near, right, anything. Just delete it and then go and delete it from your recycling bin. And as a matter of fact, like if you were in Linux especially, I would go and unlink it. I would go and deep delete. So a delete on a hard drive, like Windows, what I just did, all it did, yeah, it didn't delete it. It unlinked it from the file system. So it's still sitting there, right? But at least if it's just sitting there, Don, delete that file from your server. See what else he's got going on here. The next place that we want to check, that you want to check when you get hacked like that, your HT access. Because your HT access is basically your front door, right, to your server. Delete that bad file, bad zip file too, okay? Done. And HT access, right? I mean, think about it. When somebody goes to our site, we can put a redirect in there. We can do all kinds of things in there that tell the server to do different things, right? With the requests, inbound requests. And so it's a popular place. So I'm going to peek at his HT access as well. Again, Notepad. I don't want it to get processed mistakenly or anything like that. And your HT access is good, sir. Okay. Delete that chk.zip and
You want me to do what with that?
delete that zip file.
DHK.
Yep. This is why keeping a backup on your machine of your site is a really good idea. And making sure whenever you complete that backup on your local machine that it's always after something major that you do. It's file by file, right, as you incrementally make changes, meaning only a little bit at a time. If you notice, I'm going through his folders now because I'm looking for this kind of crap. What in the hell is that?
Is that what that other file was creating?
I think so. Look, it's doing all these submissions. Wow.
Almost acting like it's a root.
Yeah, it might just be doing work off of your server. It might not even be bothering you. Do you know what I mean? It might be just using your server as a point. It looks like what it's doing. I don't know. It won't even let me compress it to bring it down.
Well, that's how denial of service tax works.
Right. Well, honestly, what it looks like, because it has that payment process in there, it looks like it might be actually trying to bounce off of your server and make fictitious emails for payments, things like that. You know what I mean? Serving out fictitious payment. Don, if I were you, I would, well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out into your www folder. IOP5. I'm going to compress that. 5XX. Should let me do that.
risk to your machine if you run it on local host?
I'm not going to run it on localhost, and yes. Yeah. Especially with like PHP with server, right? Think about it. It can access your hard drive. Some of these things could be written with the intent that you're going to download it to see, you're going to open it, and you're going to cater to the beast of
I have
666.
my XAMPP control panel open and started. I just closed it.
Do me a favor. Download that with your editor. See if you can download that.
That top file?
Yeah, make sure your local host is.
Closed.
You know what? Never mind. Just delete it. Just get rid of it. And then go put help desk ticket in. They'll be able to look in your backups. ARPHP, is that yours?
I'm aware of.
ENA PHP, is that yours? Compare your local to your remote and get rid of what's not on your local. Does that make sense?
Okay, so go into vendor and, okay. Have it up.
Compare your file. Let me get everybody started and we'll look deeper, okay? So this is where I'd like us to go. At this point, I'm hoping that we have content. And if we don't, let's just not even discuss it. And 502, we are pulling, right? At this point? Or am I actually ahead of us? Assets. Window 1 load. Yeah, I believe you should be pulling from your me site at this point, correct? Your menu, at least. If you're not, if all you have is your menu up top and whatever, that's fine. At this point, I don't, right? What I would like you to do, and you can save this to your looks like I got a jQuery error going on in here. This is 502 elements. Yeah, you're pulling from WordPress. For each, pulling your slug in, page name. And if you're not, work towards that. At this point, if you don't have content, what I would ask you to do, if you're not pulling in, what I would ask you to do is start to get an idea of like what you think your content want to look like. Because I want to be able to start working with you on the layout and how you get that into WordPress and how you manage that so you're a little comfortable with that so you can kind of move forward with that, right? You can work the way I've been showing you. You can work in here, right? Those of you, again, with no content, here's what I would ask you to do. I would ask you to go ahead. What's that? You can work in there if you want. I would, what I would do initially is I would literally go to my page and make sure that I can get content in there. In this case, right, who am I? I would inspect that. You can see each section. So if you're not doing the get page from there, if you're not bringing your content in from the site, what you would do is create each one of these sections. And honestly, at this point, if you want, I will share out section stuff to you. I'll do it this way, watch. And if you notice, section, right? Container, row, column. My column's set to 12, and then my content is inside here. So if for some reason it's not working and you need content, this is the main to main. You might, I'm pulling in 404 there. Don't know why that's happening. I copied that. WEB-240. Now you have content. So if you have to, just put that in your main tags. Excuse me? If you don't have content, if you're not pulling content in, what I just put out here will give you content in your site. Yeah, whatever. If you don't have content to work with in your site,
So if we have it, we're good.
you're good, right?
Yeah, all those PHP files.
Get rid of them. I would put in a help desk ticket at this point. They might be able to tell you, actually, look at the creation date on one of those files. When's the last time you did IOP work, and is it on your local drive? Because if it is, I would ask them to just restore it back to prior to. Do you know what I mean? So if you see what the creation date is on those files,
9/4/19.
that puppy's been running for a while. I don't even know if you, I don't know if you can go.
4/9. I guess they have it day month.
Let me ask you this.
Month on the 9th.
Let me ask you this. You have a
4
copy.
days ago.
You have a copy of your latest work on your local?
Yeah.
I blew that whole thing away.
They just screwed all that up.
Yeah, I would blow it away. I would even potentially recreate the subdomain. You know what I mean? I would delete the files. You don't have to, but I get weird about that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Just dump the whole thing.
Yep.
What about, well, that's WordPress.
Right. So you're not going to impact that at all. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'll go home and I'll do that then.
All right. So you guys are at
What if I
502.
deleted everything in it and just told it to match the,
All right. So most of you are probably not pulling in content. This internet's killing me. That font awesome. Scroll.
So you know, it's password protected, they just probably enforced it, but it's not all that strong of a password, right?
What's that?
They just probably brute forced it.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can get in, right, when
They wrote it.
they really want to. Yeah, I have the code out there for you guys on this one. You can see it right under the lesson. For 502. All right. So we're pulling content in. I thought we were. If I go inspect this puppy. Our app.js. Yeah. Get content. Who does not? Well, I'm going to start here. Anybody who wants to follow along can. I'm recording. This was part of 502. If you are not pulling in content, Chris, Savannah, are you pulling in content? You should be, right? I think I lost Chris. So essentially, what you should be doing at this point is pulling in content from your WordPress website. If you're not and you're that far out, take that content I gave you and inject it, right? Each section is what's produced from each page. As a little overview for anyone who needs help with this, I will start walking through it and you're welcome to walk with me. If I go to my sources and I'm using, and you are welcome to use the sample site, and at this point, copying, pasting, whatever, I want to see you get this site up. So I just put my sample site in Slack. We can't really focus on this, right? Because this is all dynamically, pretty much dynamically generated at this point. What we want to do is go to our sources. And we want to make sure that our index.html page, similar to this. We have our lorem ipsum in there just in case something fires, right, breaks or whatever. We have some content in there so we can keep working. And also so we can get this indication that when that page changes. So in other words, if I look at my page right now like this, I can see, what have I done? Experience, lorem ipsum. What have I learned? Education, lorem ipsum, right? So if I go down and I look at experience, I don't have lorem ipsum in there, which means we know I'm getting my content from my site. So what I'm going to do with this one, if you're in question, take my love branch and use it right now. going to save my index page and I'm going to go ahead and put it out on Slack. Ooh, no, I don't. That could be ugly. I wonder if I can just save my whole folder. Let me see if I can just save my whole folder here. More than one way to skin an elephant. That was horrible.
Yeah, it's nice.
That was horrible. I don't know why I would say something like that. God should smack me down for that one. I thought it was being funny, but it didn't sound funny coming out of my mouth. Kind of bothered me. Saving these for overrides so that I can share them. Take care of that then. Inspect. We'll just add something silly in there so that we get a hopefully we see. I thought for sure that would give me my styles. All right, we're still pretty much to the, that's great. So here comes my index and my app.js, and this is what you need. If you have lorem, you want to be paying attention to this and going along with me. If you're past lorem, but having difficulties, you probably want to pay attention. Here's the app.js. Here's the index I'm working off of. And this is my starting point. So if you need them, grab them. When you get the app.js, when you go into that, you're going to have to point it to your WordPress site. If you have not set up an IOP me or a me website, what I would suggest doing at this point, if you have your inside out project from Web-100 WP set up, use that. If you remember, we went ahead and we installed that Bootstrap theme, correct, in our WordPress. And we did that so that things don't look crazy, right, from here, and we can test things and whatever, because our ultimate goal, we're leveraging Bootstrap out in our site itself, correct? So what I would suggest doing at this point is, first of all, make sure that you're pulling your content in. So if you borrowed my file, whether this is your me or your WEB-100 website, make sure that you're pulling your content in. Oh, and geez, by the way, make sure that you're secure. Silly me. That's better. I can deal with those errors. I was thinking I was going to have to go chase errors. So if you borrow my code for whatever reason, and I don't care and I don't want to know, whether it was because you were struggling, lazy, I really don't care. But let's get you going with this. What we want you to do is reach out to one of your sites where you can create content. Whatever site that might be, I'm going to log in. WP admin of the site that I'm accessing. And what I know when I look at my code is this. I'm looking for pages, right? Here's my site. This is the WordPress API that we're familiar with, right? I'm going after pages in that API. And what I want it to give me is pages that have a parent ID of whatever my parent ID is. And so let's talk about that real quick. What the hell do you mean the parent ID for anyone who might not know? First of all, I declared this variable. We declared this variable up here in the right in the root in the global scope. Mine is 329. What makes mine 329 is if I go into pages and I go to all pages, and I hover over that, that's 314. Hover over that, that's 329. Down here in the bottom left corner, I'm sure it's smaller than a freaking net, you know, but down in that bottom left corner is where I get that ID from. And by the way, when I click on it, when I click on that page, I get that ID up here too in the URL. If you're working along and you need help, let me know. So I can get that when I click on that page, I can get that ID up here because at the end of the day, everything in WordPress is a post. The only thing that makes the post different is post types. So in other words, a page is a post that the only real thing that makes it different data-wise is that its post type is called page. And a post type, I know it's a post type is called a post. A user, believe it or not, right? Your users in the database, that's a post with a post type of user. A setting that's in WordPress is a post with the post type of. It's funny, but I mean, that's one of the things that makes WordPress so strong is that it's just reusing itself over and over and over again and calling itself different things. Therefore, it's an infinite, right? You can make a post type for every name in the world, you know, and it'll be treated like it's a different thing that you can manage differently. So the reason we have this page ID in here is our assignment asked us, right, to create, and this is where you become stronger as a developer that wants to use multiple site, right, especially multiple HTML5 sites and feed them off of one WordPress site. Well, this is a great example of that because if you look, we have all this other stuff in here too. But all we're asking for is give me a page with all the pages that have the parent ID. So we're not even asking for this for welcome to me. What we're asking for is everything below it, which happens to be we created home, about, experience, education, skills, interests, awards, and contact. Correct? Which means it's going to give us all those pages back. Yes, sir.
And it won't, if, like you have a sub page under there, it won't give you that because the parent page
Correct.
it only goes to one layer.
Well, yes, you're right. Now let me explain it technically. It only goes to one layer, but honestly, there's a column in there in the database that says parent ID. And so either it's a match or it's, you know what I mean? Like either it's a match or it isn't, you know? But yes, you're right, theoretically.
I'm sure there's a way to say, give me anything that
Isn't.
goes up. If it goes up the chain, it eventually runs into a parent ID.
Yes, right. And that's where, honestly, I think that's built into WordPress. I think we can do that. If we couldn't, what kind of function would we use to do that?
Oh, the one that calls itself.
Recursion, yeah. And I'm sure that there's recursive functionality built in to that. So what we should have, and if you don't have your content now and you stole my file, that's okay. I'm explaining this to you now. Don't worry. Steal my file and use my content for now until you can get your WordPress site up.
And just change the number.
And then just change what you're pointing to. Point it from mine to yours and change the parent ID number. Okay? You good? You with me?
Yeah.
Right. You gonna stick with mine? Or you got yours?
Nah.
All right, you're gonna stick with mine. Do me a favor. If you're not pointing, if your site is not loaded with content right now, point to mine. Like leave it pointed to mine so that we can keep moving forward, right? Without tripping you up. And then you can go back and recreate yours and you can take care of yours at a later point. You can ask me for help at a later point as well. What we do see is we're doing two things off of these. We say, give me the parent, any page that has the parent of that ID. So that's the parent, that's the ID that we put in. We can see these are all nested underneath that parent. Make sense? And so when we come out here and we look at this, what we can see is that our first page looks like this, which means what I would expect under welcome to me, if I went to home under welcome to me, what I'm going to see hopefully is exactly that without style. So if you look, right, that is that, just not style. Makes sense? And by the way, for anyone, I'm like throwing it all out there for you guys to catch up that are behind. The login to this IOP me, I will go and change. I will go create a student user so you can get back here and look at what's going on. So you have it as a reference point. All right. So what I am paying attention to when I do these posts is that I'm using WordPress. I mean, WordPress. Duh. I'm using Bootstrap out there. And so what I'm trying to do is leverage, if you see all these classes, right? Round circle, image fluid. These are Bootstrap classes. I go to my next page, about. Holy moly schmoly. You can see right out of the gate, look, using Bootstrap classes here, right? I'm doing container, row, and then columns. With Bootstrap, we always do container, row, columns, container, row, columns, right? And then Bootstrap takes care of that folding and expanding for us. Whatever we put in a row, we can distribute between 12 columns. If we don't specify how many columns, Bootstrap will decide for us if we put it in a row. So if we put 24 items in there, 24 divs that all had the class column, it will try to put all 24 when it makes sense, right? Because we're just, well, actually it'll put 12, sorry. It'll put 12 and then it'll bump the other 12 down because at that point it'll say, I'm out of room, right? And as we get smaller, it'll probably go down to, right, 6, 3, 1 kind of thing. And we can also, with Bootstrap, the nice part is, with Bootstrap, we can say, it's small, hide this, right? Don't show it. So I have a bunch of content in here in this page, and this is the About page. And so when I come over here to my site and I go to About, right, I can see, and this is what I want us to start applying what we're learning. That's why I really, at this point, don't care if you're stealing code from me. I want you to start applying what we're learning, which is responsive. And so if I go to About, and I'm going to go into responsive mode, and I think we decided the other day, what, 350 is a good, 360, good starting point.
Or 400 or 420.
Everybody go
360 is
too small.
than an iPhone. It's more like about 4 or 420.
Okay.
That's what we discussed, wasn't it?
I thought we were.
Okay, so everybody just leave me under the bus.
I thought we were going smaller.
Thank you very much. Bitches.
Well,
we can decide shit.
here's the nice part about it. Honestly, at this point, what can we let decide what we're going? Let's go out to get Bootstrap, right? This,
Bootstrap has standards, don't they?
yep. And so what we can do, actually, we don't want to like search for it. We can just search for Bootstrap media queries, right? But I know if we go into our documentation and we go under, I believe it's layout.
That's right.
Hang on. There are containers. There's our media queries. So, no media query necessary for excess breakpoint as it's effectively media min with 0. And then we can see what our media queries are. And the interesting thing, if we wanted to, right, what we can really do is go after instead of writing media queries, we can go after the Bootstrap classes. Meaning, if you want to try, which is cool, and it could be more easier for Jimmy could sit there and be like, damn, this rocks. You know, I'm nailing it every time I'm picking the right class. Monica could be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Every time I try something, it just blows everything. Do you know what I mean? So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But what is really good to know is this. Right there. Why? Because when you have to make those small tweaks and you can't find that right class to apply, right? You're not defining this breakpoint midstream of other breakpoints and breaking fluidity of the site, so to speak. You're leveraging what is currently there. And it becomes this where you can just take that. You can come over here. And honestly, at this point, we'll go look at our files, look at our assets, CSS. We don't even have a CSS file in there because we're literally leveraging 100% Bootstrap right now, right? I don't know if it'll let me create a file. It won't. So for time's sake, honestly, what I would do, how much work are we actually doing inside the index.html? 0, right? So for now, you could just come inside here. I would challenge you not to do what I'm showing you. Because it becomes too easy, right, to come here instead of learn Bootstrap by going and exploring, when honestly, especially if you have 2 monitors and you have this open up in one, and you come in here and you start looking at the way things are, you start to become more comfortable with the classes. And when you become more comfortable with the classes, right, you start to leverage them a lot more. And you actually start to get into it and start wanting to understand more, right? And next thing you know it, you start working backwards on those media queries sometimes. But if I come in, let's just look at content. You know, I know these are Bootstrap defaults. Can I be happy with them with my initial, right? My initial layout? Hell yeah, I can, right? Components are really important for you as you do this, because, so let's start using this as an example. Components, I want to look for a card, and you'll see why. By the way, I will go paste them in there for shits and giggles. When we use an HTML file, what do we have to do? Anybody remember? When we update an HTML file in our overrides,
You have to go up the top where it's purple and save it off. Purple dot.
yep. And then what else? Wait.
Copy and paste it in your code.
What's the HTML file do?
You gonna refresh?
Got to refresh. Why do you got to refresh?
It's gotta rebuild the DOM.
Yep. Right. So, and I forget that sometimes I'll be like, what the hell? You know, and I'll be working on it and like, why isn't that applying? Why isn't that applying? Only to remember, you got to refresh the HTML, because HTML is built as it loads, and it can't really, which is weird to me, because I would think with JavaScript and right, all the things we can do, but I guess it's just the law. So let's go ahead and refresh. And I'm going to leave these media queries up here just for my own shits and giggles, for me to, right, be able to access. I'm going to come up here. I'm happy right now with the way that I'm not happy with the way my page looks. There we go. I'm happy right now with the way that loads. I like that we're using that resizer to resize the different areas so that they match the height, so they don't like bleed, and kind of give it like that page feel to it. I'm happy with this. I'm fine with that right now. And my about, I'm not too happy with, because of the fact that I don't like that it's not sitting up there, right? So I believe that we are in small. So the easy person's way out which might be our way, yeah, right? But the easiest person way around this, who's not trying to learn and get it done. Let me rephrase that. The person who is doing something to make money and is really not all that interested in learning at the moment because they got to pay their bills and they got to deliver this site before the end of the month so they can, right? We go about it like this.
Somebody who has other priorities.
That's right. ID. And honestly, at this point, what I really want to do, my apologies, before I even go there, is just come over here, select it, right click on it, inspect it. I see that there. 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 And holy crap, there's my margin. Section is bringing in margin somewhere, right? So I know that what I want to address is not all of this, right? Because I don't see how I see green on the left and right? Yes, sir.
I was just ready to say, don't you want to check the other ones and see if it's endemic to all of them?
Yeah,
Just about.
you're absolutely right. So I know that that section, I see that margin. It's a section thing. Because as I scroll up, right, I see that margin. So the first thing that I really want to do at this point is just see where,
Seems to me like your boxes are overrunning. It's just that one that's not overrunning. It
well,
gives you that blank space,
I
so
think that we're getting, it's padding. It's not even margin, it's padding. You see that? I lifted the padding off of this here. We're picking up padding somewhere. And because we're doing mobile first, I need to get the hell out of that media query, right? Because what I'm trying to do is assign defaults, meaning without a media query. So what I would do if I were trying to make money is come in here, right, quickly, and I wasn't familiar with Bootstrap, but the client wanted it done in Bootstrap. I would come in here and I would say section, with 0px. Let's see if that does it. I saved it. I need to refresh this because of the way that I did it. We can see already that it did it, right, on that reload. So that's the cheap way to do it. And as we go through, right, we can see that, you know, as we would do our, give me my dragger. We can see, you know, as we go through that that padding is going to apply that whole time, right? Because we're in our defaults and we can address that later as we move forward. Right now, I'm just sticking with iPhone X at the moment, and I can see that I'm not happy. This is fine. That looks fine. But when I come down to about, close, I can see that I'm already kind of screwed. It's even offsetting backwards, and I think that I'm getting a bad load of an error because my scroll is not working. Now it's working. About. So I can control my padding that way. What Bootstrap, and remember, the whole thing that makes it cool to leverage Bootstrap as much as you can is, remember, we have that theme roller, we have different things. So we can totally, right, lay this site out and go make 10 other sites with it the base to a site by literally going into that theme roller and 15 minutes later coming out with the client's 4 major colors applied to their site. Make sense? So what we do want to do in here is we want to go after padding. Over here to their nifty little, right, thing. And we can see we have a couple different things in here. I believe that we want display toggle. No, we don't want that. Oh, it's going to make an ass out of me. Let's go after content. We're going to do control find, padding. Here we see our padding is there. If I come down to here, padding, text align, captions, padding and more comes with the table class. And so at this point, I probably would say that we'd want to hop out and take a look. But at this point, again, what I would do, because of the fact that you don't want to spend too much time, you're okay with just coming in here temporarily for now and saying padding. I think that what I want for padding is 26. Oops, not 260. Honestly, I hate working in here because I want to see it live. So I'm going to come over to elements. You'll see me flip-flop back and forth. I'm going to come over to elements to here. And I'm going to say 30. Then I'm going to try 12 px because I want 12 in from the sides, 30 from the top. Right? And then sometimes it writes it. It didn't write it this time. If there's a style.css file, usually when you make changes in console, it'll write it over to the styles.css. So then the other thing that we have a problem with, right, is our content, and that's in this section as well. And so for now, the best thing that we could do with that is just go ahead and say overflow hidden. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to refresh. Now, we don't want our content to be unavailable, right, and not seen. But at the same time, we want to make sure that when we go from about to experience, that it's not causing that to be crappy as well. Or from experience, which we can see we have overflow there, to education, that he's not right overlapping all of that. So now that we have a little better control over the way that it looks, right, what's going on here, and we don't like that. I don't know how many of you, me, I can't stand it when I'm on a phone and I'm scrolling and I hit one of these and like it stops scrolling, but you're scrolling something and you're like, what the hell am I scrolling kind of thing. What we need to do is when we cut these off is put that little down arrow saying expand it or, you know, something of that nature to indicate there's more to read. If you'd like to open it, go ahead. But we're not going to send you into scrolling hell.
Same on a regular screen on a desktop or laptop. When you're scrolling down, then it starts scrolling and the page stops scrolling, but you're scrolling inside the frame.
Yes. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a cell phone, even on a regular computer.
You're absolutely correct, sir. You're absolutely correct. All right. And we'll address that then. At this point, what you want to do, right, is we're just going after getting through our content and maybe having a look at how things are going to play out for us. One of the things is my cards. The problem with my cards is I want to see how they play Let's go to iPad. You know, still kind of ugly. Go to desktop. They're just ugly. Period. These cards are butt ugly. They don't look good. They don't flow nice, right? Why they would decide to jump like that. So that's the next thing. And this is where you're kind of exercising and playing with what you're learning. Honestly, the best thing that you can do in a situation like that is what I started doing earlier, which is utilize the components. We can come over here and go down to cards. And that's an example of a card. That's an example of a card. That's an example of a card, so on and so forth. And honestly, take your example, go to your content site. That section is experience, I think is what I'm on. Yep. Experience. Go into your WordPress site. Good lordy, lordy. We got all kinds of craziness going on in here. So I'm just going to start right below here, and I'm going to take this card of all my styles, right? Everything, I just picked it right up from WordPress. Got experience, lure ipsum. I have my image. I know that this is my image up here. I'm going to find my break right where my cards overlap, kind of thing. You can do that in visual. To make my life a little bit easier, I'm just going to put a couple spaces in between each of these so I can break them apart. And then hopefully it separated them by paragraphs or divs or something. Good. See, now at least I can see what's going on with my content. And I have my sample card right here. I know that I want open, 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 open. There's my card. 1, 2. I know that I want this to be in its own row. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it 12 columns. And I believe my MX is actually my margins. So I'm telling that to go auto. And I'm telling this 12 columns for now. I'm closing that off, right? I have a container. I want to be attentive to that. I want to put another row in. Row. We should actually bump that down to its own kind of column thing. We'll let that play out the way it is. I don't like that. I like it better to be div, row, div, class equals column, and then close off your row, close off your column. And at this point, what I can do before I do too much work is come in, put one or two of these cards in, right? Just to see how that plays out. We got two cards inside these columns. I'm going to separate them with a column. That makes sense? If it doesn't, you should be saying so. Column is a container. Makes it harder to see on here because we don't have that formatting laid out. But basically, I'm opening a new row. I'm closing this row here off. You can see I'm opening a container here. I'm opening a row here. Let's be as clean as we can about that, and let's do it correctly. Inside that row, I'm opening a column, and I'm saying, take all 12, right? Take all 12 available columns that are here. Coming down here, I'm saying close that column. And then I'm saying close that row. So it's just like in a spreadsheet, I just like said, okay, I'm moving down to the next row. I'm opening a new row. Inside that row, I'm saying I want a column. Put this card in there. Close the column, a new column. Put this card in there. Close the column, close the row. Row, column. Good. Content, close. Row, column, div card. I feel like I'm missing closing divs, right? That one. 2. Didn't pick up the closing divs on the cards. Keep them tied up so we can see them.
There's a closing tag on that line.
Is there do where?
On a div class card. That slash, that backwards slash.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Thank you, Jimmy. Look at that. Don't use that damn copy tag, obviously. Because that's, remember I used that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it gave me. Was that I'm glad you caught that. All right, so row, column. Let's do it like this and make sure we're clean. Best way to do that is like this. Content. We'll just put in caps so it's real obvious to us, right? And we're going to close off that column, but we're not going to close off the row because we want another card next to it when it works, correct? When it serves. So we're going to open up another column. Let's do it that it makes even more sense for people. Maybe you'll be able to see it better this way. I think I'm getting things very confusing for some. So let me try this. Let's get rid of that card. So much easier. A lot of times when I work in here, by the way, I will actually go work in an IDE and then bring it over and paste it in. You know what I mean? Because without indentation, holy crap, it can really mess with your head, right? So we have a column here that's opening and closing. That is wrapped in this row. So now I think we can see better. I can't indent everything right now, but right, this container This closes that container. This opens that container. This opens up a row saying across, and it says, give me all 12 columns, period. So that takes the entire row because we work in 12 column rows, right? We come down here and we say, give me another row, right? We're staying in the same container. We're staying in the same container. We're coming down here. And by putting col, we're saying you decide when columns should float and when they shouldn't float. 1 second. You decide. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make room for 3 cards while we're doing it this way, while it makes sense to us. And so we know we have that row there. Row, container. We got 3 columns. Close off our row. Theoretically, holy crap. Row, container. This should close off that container. So before I do anything else, I'll save it. It's 1 second, huh? I'm going to refresh it. Go larger. And take it responsive. And go ahead. You're probably going to tell me something I needed to know. We can see content. Does everybody see that? We can see that it's having the effect that we were expecting. And as we close it in, you see how it's bringing them in closer together. Not quite sure. Oh, that's why. You got my window so weird now, it's not funny. Hang on. Let's press pause. I think at this point now we should be able to look at the contents and we can see that they started wrapping for us at a way too small, but they started wrapping for us. Okay. No, you don't have to submit anything today. All right. Yep. Yeah, you can roll if you have to. I'm going to just finish this one off here. I'm just going to go in and replace the columns now with the cards. You're right, Savannah? What's that?
Yep, I'm good.
We have class on Thursday.
The awards are Thursday, right? Are the awards this Thursday? Next Thursday. Next Thursday, we don't. I'm going to have to send out a...
You're gonna have class and we're gonna leave early or what?
I don't know how it's going to...
I invited my son up to.
Yeah, Linda told me to cancel class, but I could stop up and get people rolling at least.
Well, I just told my son to come up and since he's gonna go to the ceremony and I'll bring him into class.
So we can hear the truth about what I have to say about
He'll
you
laugh and tell you the truth.
before I go feed
He'll look at me and
people
give
a
him
bunch
the
of
nod.
bull.
He'll look at me and give him the nod to go ahead and tell the truth. I'll give him the nod.
Who's going to get an award for the most talkative person at RAC
Ever.
ever?
In the history of RAC.
Ever. And ever.
What's shaking, Mamba Jamba?
Not that much, do I?
Hey.
Are you doing all right?
Yeah. I had some of the content already done. I just had to figure out why it wasn't working.
Well, if
I
you
think
need
it has
help,
something to do with
what's that?
I think it had something to do with the class tag. It was fucking something up.
Okay. Well, if you need help, let me know. I'd be happy to connect with you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.